Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. A new year is upon us. 2025 is going to be the next year of all of our lives. And I want to speak about that with you briefly today. With this new year comes a new and then again not so new president, Donald Trump. He will be, right from the beginning, a lame duck. What do I mean? Well, he can't run again unless he gets the Congress to do something it has never been willing to do before, namely give a president more than 2 terms maximum. So I'm assuming that's not going to happen. So he knows he's done in 4 years. He will not be able to run again or win again or govern. He will be judged during these coming 4 years, as particularly afterwards, for what he does and doesn't do. And I wish I could set out for you now what it is he's likely to do given what he said. But I can't do that. And it's not a failure of mine. I don't even think it's a failure of Mr. Trump. I believe it is deliberate. I cannot imagine him doing what he's doing if it weren't deliberate. And what do I mean? He is deliberately telling us that he will do things which are directly contradictory to one another. I'm going to give you just a few examples. He's going to hit our trading partners, starting with the 2 countries that do most of the trade with the United States, Canada, and Mexico. He's going to hit them with tariffs. Okay, here are the problems. Tariffs are a tax. The word tariff simply means a tax on imported goods and services. It's like every other tax, like a sales tax or an income tax or a property tax. It's a tax. And you know something? The Republican Party has been telling us for the last century that it is the party against taxes. I don't believe all those Republicans were lying. They meant it. They often did cut taxes. Mr. Trump has promised to cut taxes. But to tell us that he's going to hit our trading partners with taxes that make the price of any good and service coming into the country go up relative to what it was before, because you have to add the tax to it, that means he's telling us that he's going to raise taxes, which contradicts what the Republican Party says it is in favor of, cutting taxes. But it gets even worse when you think about it. If tariffs raise the price of everything coming in to the United States, and if he really means to hit them with across-the-board tariffs on everything, let me remind you of some of the things that we consume every day that have to be imported so that we can consume them, and which means that we're now going to have to pay not just for whatever it is we import to consume, but a tax on top of that, making it more expensive. Let's start first thing in the morning. Coffee. It's imported. The amount of coffee in this country grown here is very, very small, a tiny fraction of the coffee we consume. Into the coffee we put sugar. That's an imported item also, in large part. I could go on. We import an enormous portion of our automobiles, including our trucks. Those are all going to become more expensive now that there's a tariff. Do you understand? If Mr. Trump goes through with this, then what are we to make of his promise as he ran for office that he would do something about the inflation? If he goes ahead with his tariffs, he will indeed do something about the inflation. You know what it is? He'll make it worse. Oh my goodness. What do we make of that? I have no idea. Does that mean he won't really do the tariffs? Does it mean he won't really make the inflation worse? No one knows. To be honest, I don't think he does either. I think he, on the campaign trail, is a campaigner. What that means after the election, he doesn't care. He's the kind of guy who realizes if you don't win the election, nobody will care what you promised. And if you do win the election, you can try to help people forget afterwards what it is you promised. Part of my purpose today is to make sure that doesn't happen. Here's another example. Mr. Trump is going to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Oh, is he really? Let's take a look at what that means to see whether he will or will not go through with it, whether he even can. There are 3 industries in the United States that employ a lot of undocumented immigrants. They're entertainment, that's basically restaurants, construction, building new homes and office buildings, and agriculture, planting, weeding, plowing, and picking the fruits and vegetables we rely on. In every one of those 3 industries that we patronize one way or another every day, in those industries, capitalists make profits because of the ruthless exploitation of undocumented immigrants who are major parts of their labor forces. What do I mean? First of all, undocumented immigrants are desperate for work. They really can't survive without it. So they offer themselves to employers willing to take lower wages than native-born workers are likely to accept. But it's worse than that. The employer looks for undocumented immigrants, looks for opportunities to substitute them for the native-born. Why? Because if a Friday afternoon comes and you're the employer handing out pay envelopes to all your workers, and Jose stands online and reaches out his hand for his envelope because he just worked hard all week like everybody else, the employer can turn to him and say, "We're a little short on money this week, Jose, so you'll only find half of your already low pay in the envelope. We hope to do better next week." What is Jose going to do? Go to the cops and say he's been stiffed for half his paycheck? He doesn't dare. He's an undocumented immigrant. He goes and talks to the police. The next thing he knows is he's deported back to wherever he came from. So he won't go to the police. And the employer knows it. Why? From years of doing this. This has been going on for decades in the United States. It's well documented, even if the immigrant isn't. Will the immigrant Jose go to the Labor Department to complain? No, and for the same reasons. Worst of all, he'll come back next week because half his paycheck is better than no paycheck at all. What a wonderful employee for a profit-driven employer. That's why they're working in construction and agriculture and restaurants. And why am I telling you this? Because if you deport millions of those people, you will be depriving those employers of a key part of their profit. So thoroughly do they rip off immigrants, especially those without documents, that it's a disproportionate part of their profit that those at the bottom provide. So they're going to be in deep trouble if Mr. Trump goes through with it. And you can be very sure that as I'm speaking to you, those industries are at work in Washington with their lobbyists, with their donations, with their bribes, pushing everyone and anyone not to do what Mr. Trump says he will do. And if he does, if none of that works, you know what's going to happen? In agriculture, the price of our fruits and vegetables is going to go way up, Jack. The cost of housing already out of control in this country, both as rents and as home prices, will get worse because there isn't the army of underpaid, undocumented immigrants working in construction. And going to the restaurant will present the same kind of problem. What is Mr. Trump going to do? I don't know. Dare he take steps that will raise the inflation, make the price of housing, food, restaurant go up, and thereby pricing us out of those things? He dare not, but he promised he will. What is he going to do? I don't know. He doesn't either. So here's the honest truth about the new year in terms of the Trump administration and of our economy. We are facing a much more uncertain future than at any time in my memory. And as you can see, the color of my hair shows you have been around quite a while. That may not be the point of Mr. Trump's presidency, but uncertainty is the certain thing he's delivering to us in this new year. If interventions like this strike you as useful, interesting, worth part of the national conversation, then please share this video with friends, neighbors, relatives. It's why we make them. And of course, if you can help us defray the costs of doing so, a donation to our website, democracyatwork.info, would be enormously appreciated. Thank you.